We all want the good life, and we are sold many different types of good lives. I hope this book, The Good Life, Psychoanalytic Reflections on Love, Ethics, Creativity, and Spirituality by Jeffery Rubin, a psychoanalyst in New York City, helps us understand how to find the good life instead of just telling us another version of it. So today, we are exploring the question, are you living a perverse life? And are you in a perverse relationship? And we're going to take a quote from Mr. Rubin here from his book. Mr. Rubin says that a life of perversity is sterile, devitalized, and impoverished. One remains alienated from other people who one tries to control, have power over, and silence. Intimacy cannot grow on such soil. Dominance precludes dialogue. One cannot learn from other people when one has authoritarian relationships to them. So when I usually think of perversion, I think of the definition given by famous psychoanalyst Robert Stoller, where he stated that perversion is the erotic form of hatred. And my whole master's thesis centered around that definition, and it can get really heavy into jargon. But Jeffery Rubin gives us the definition of perversion that is useful to all of us in our daily lives. So let's explore this definition and break it down so we know we're talking about the same thing. So let's define sterile, which means not being able to produce. And then devitalize means to be deprived of strength or vigor. Impoverished means to be made poor and to be deprived of strength and vitality. Alienation means to experience or induce feelings of isolation or estrangement. And intimacy means closeness in its most basic meaning. Let's ask ourselves the obvious questions we will resist asking and resist answering honestly now. So the first question we have to ask is, what part of your life is sterile? What do you want to do that you can't do? Can you not make enough money to progress in your goals? What are those goals? Is it a nice car, a house, a business, or a family? Identifying what part of your life you feel is sterile is the first way you can start to realize what parts of our lives we are faltering in or even failing at. Then we have to really explore why we are faltering and failing at those parts of our lives. This is you essentially asking, why am I failing at my values? A lot of the time we would say that it's the stresses of life, that the government is holding us down, that others are holding us back, and that life isn't fair, so you won't be able to go after your constitutionally protected pursuit of happiness. But this really brings us to the next question. Are you devitalizing and impoverishing yourself? Everyone writes and speaks about how everyone and everything else is in your way. We have movement after movement that preaches that if only the government, people, or things got out of your way, you could do what you were meant to do. This idea is not totally wrong. We have examples of these great oppressions, just as in the Maoist China and during World War II when America put their Japanese citizens into internment camps. But let's give humanity some credit. We've grown since the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s when all this was happening, just a little bit. And it's very likely that none of you have been thrown into a gulag or internment camp in your lifetime. Some of you may not know what a gulag or internment camp is. But I digress, though, since this is not about who suffers more. My point is that a life where we are not so fiercely outwardly oppressed, it may be that we devitalize and impoverish ourselves. And it's not may, it is that we do this to ourselves. We hate to see that we do this to ourselves because this completely breaks the comfortable victim and helplessness position we are granted when we can blame everything outside of ourselves. And that's the key word, everything. Not some things, not the rational things, not the logical things, everything. We lose our holiness, and we find out that we also are oppressors. And worst of all, we are our own prison guard. How do we oppress ourselves, though? One way that we do this, especially here in the States and other nations where we don't have to worry about surviving, but about our comfort, is that we waste time. We can waste time with entertainment, with our jobs and careers, with sleeping too much, with focusing our limited energy on things that don't invest in creating. Because anytime we invest our time and energy into what is not creating, we are investing in making a sterile, devitalized, and impoverished life. So let's think about romantic relationships for a moment. What does a perverse relationship look like when we are using the definition by Jeffery Rubin? It's a relationship that's going nowhere. And even worse, it's a relationship that's leading you to mental and physical death. You may think that I'm being dramatic. I tell you that a relationship that is dragging you backwards and isn't creating anything constructive can only push you into the grave. So, look around. How many people do you see in dead relationships and won't leave because of the kids or because they've just been in a relationship for so long, so why leave now? How many people do you see going from one relationship to another as they experience the same nothing over and over again with the same person with a different face? How many people do you know who can't get their lives off the ground and are stuck in nothingness? Are you one of these people? Do you even want to know if you're one of these people? The main question to ask is, where am I going in my relationship in life? If the answer is nowhere, that you don't know, or you're going somewhere that you wish not to be, then you're living a perverse life in a perverse relationship. Now that we've answered that, let's see if we can find an answer to what to do if you're living a perverse life throughout the book. I'll see you all in the next review of The Good Life. I trust this information created new thoughts for you. If it did, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and follow me on Facebook to get more daily content from me. And if you're interested in working with me in person or online, the links are down below.